Pick up a Roman coin from the 1st century, a silver denarius, and it feels heavy, solid, real. 95% pure silver. A soldier's daily wage, a merchant's guarantee, the foundation of the most powerful economy the ancient world had ever seen. Now pick up a denarius from 200 years later. It's lighter, thinner. The silver is gone, replaced by bronze with a thin wash of silver that flakes off in your hand. Same name, same stamp. But worthless. Between those two coins lies the death of an empire. Rome didn't fall because barbarians stormed the gates. It fell because its money died first. And the way it died, slowly, deliberately, one emperor at a time, is a story that should terrify anyone holding paper currency today. For centuries, Rome ran on the silver denarius. First minted around 211 BC, it was nearly pure silver, trusted not just within the empire but far beyond its borders. Chinese merchants accepted it. Indian traders demanded it. The denarius was the dollar of the ancient world. Roman soldiers were paid in it. Tax collectors counted it. Farmers saved it in clay pots buried beneath their floors. The coin wasn't just money, it was a promise that Rome was stable, that Rome was powerful, that Rome would endure. And for a remarkably long time, that promise held. Under Augustus, the first emperor, the denarius contained about 95% silver. The economy boomed. Trade routes stretched from Britain to the Silk Road. Roman engineering, roads, aqueducts, harbors connected a continent. All of it financed by sound money that people trusted with their lives. But running the largest empire on earth came with a problem that every government in history has faced. It cost more than they could collect in taxes. Legions had to be paid. Borders had to be defended. Germanic tribes pressed from the north. Parthians attacked from the east. Civil wars erupted within. And every new emperor needed to buy the loyalty of the army. Literally, with cash bonuses called donatives. Tax revenues couldn't keep up, so the emperors turned to the oldest financial trick in history, debasement. Instead of raising taxes, always unpopular, sometimes fatal, they simply reduced the silver content of the denarius. Same coin, same face, same name. Less silver. Under Nero, the silver dropped to 90%. Still, mostly silver, barely noticeable. Under Trajan, it fell to 85%. Under Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, 75%. Each reduction was small. Each emperor told himself it was temporary. Each one was wrong. By the time Caracalla took power in the early 3rd century, the denarius was barely 50% silver. He tried to fix the problem by introducing a new coin, the Antoninianus, worth 2 denarii, but containing only 1.5 denarii worth of silver. It was a mathematical lie, and the people knew it. Here's what happens when money loses its value. Everything breaks at once. Prices rose because the coins were worth less. A measure of wheat that once cost 1 denarius suddenly cost 10, then 50, then hundreds. Soldiers demanded higher pay to cover the rising costs. Merchants stopped accepting the debased coins altogether, reverting to barter, trading grain for tools, cloth for labor, as if centuries of monetary progress had never happened. Under Emperor Gallienus, in the mid-3rd century, the denarius contained less than 5% silver. It was a bronze disc with a memory of silver, and the economy collapsed accordingly. The crisis of the 3rd century, from 235 to 284 AD, was 50 years of pure chaos. Nearly 50 emperors rose and fell. Some reigned for months before being murdered by their own guards. Plagues swept through cities, trade networks fractured, farmers abandoned their land rather than pay taxes in worthless coins. The Roman government tried everything: price controls, forced labor, Emperor Diocletian issued the edict on maximum prices in 301 AD, fixing the cost of over 1,000 goods and services, from bread to haircuts. The penalty for charging more? Death. The result? The black market exploded. Official trade collapsed. You cannot decree value into a worthless coin. Constantine the Great finally stopped the bleeding. Around 312 AD, he introduced the solidus, a gold coin of consistent purity. It would become one of the most stable currencies in history, lasting over 700 years in the Eastern Roman Empire. But for the Western Empire, it was too late. The damage was done. Decades of currency collapse had hollowed out the economy from the inside. Armies couldn't be maintained, roads crumbled, trade routes that once connected the known world fell silent. The barbarians who eventually sacked Rome in 476 AD didn't conquer a thriving empire. They walked into a shell, an economy already destroyed by its own rulers, one debased coin at a time. The armies at the gates finished the job, but the real killer was always inside the treasury. If this were just ancient history, it would be fascinating but harmless. It's not. The Roman currency crisis is a blueprint, and it has been copied, almost exactly, in every century since. Germany, 1923. After World War I, the government printed marks to cover crushing war reparations. By November 1923, a loaf of bread cost 200 billion marks. Workers carried wages home in wheelbarrows. Pensioners watched their life savings become worthless overnight. The economic despair fueled the rise of extremism that would set the world on fire. Zimbabwe, 2008. The government printed money to cover debts from failed land reforms. Inflation hit 89.7 sextillion% per year. Prices doubled every 24 hours. Eventually, Zimbabwe abandoned its currency entirely. Same pattern, same result. Government spends beyond its means, debases the currency to cover the gap. Inflation destroys the middle class. Trust evaporates. Society fractures. Now consider this. In 1971, President Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard. From that moment, the dollar became fiat currency, backed not by silver or gold, but by trust. Since then, the money supply has expanded by over 4,000%. A dollar in 1971 buys what takes more than $7 today. The coins look the same, the bills look the same, but the value has been quietly hollowed out, exactly like the Roman denarius. Governments today do what Roman emperors did. They disguise inflation as growth. They present debt as investment. They point to rising stock markets as proof of prosperity, while the majority of people own little or no stock at all. The trick is identical, only the technology has changed. And the scale? The scale is terrifying. Rome's collapse was an imperial crisis. Weimar Germany's was national. Zimbabwe's was local. But today, the entire world runs on fiat currencies, massive government debts, and central banks willing to print trillions at the first sign of trouble. The next monetary crisis won't be contained to one empire. It will be global. Rome teaches us three things that every person alive today needs to understand. First, inflation is not an accident. It is policy. It is the silent tax that has destroyed empires for 2,000 years. When a government spends more than it earns, the difference is always paid by the people whose money loses value. Second, real wealth is never found in paper or digits on a screen. It's in assets that hold value when money doesn't. Land, skills, productive businesses, resources. The Romans who survived the crisis were the ones who held real things, not debased coins. Third, never assume stability is permanent. Romans in the 1st century would have laughed if you told them. Their coins would become worthless. Germans in 1913 would have scoffed at the idea of wheelbarrows full of cash. And yet, in every case, the same story unfolded. History doesn't repeat, but if you don't understand it, it will crush you all the same. Subscribe to Compounding Crow, because understanding how money works is the first step to making it work for you.